and welcome to Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
I'm your you can't add to your backlog if you don't buy any new games. I'm doing the little meme guy pose, host Madelyn.
I'm your my Steam wishlist is just another backlog, host Emma.
And thanks, a theoretical backlog.
Yeah.
Like a second tier.
Yeah, it basically is.
Thanks for tuning into this week's show. It's Emma's side quest here in May. Emma, what are we talking about this week?
This week, we're doing something lighter, something more opinion-based.
Yeah.
You know, than our deep dives into, like, is Pac-Man a vegetarian? You know?
Shoot. Okay, this month I have to do that. May is a lighter month for me. If there's going to be a time that I'm going to do the in-depth research. Okay, go on. Yes, I'm going to pick something lighter.
So, this week we're talking about gaming backlogs and how to tackle them.
Except when you got into the research for this, it was like, no, this isn't light at all. This is serious business.
Yeah.
This is a job.
Yeah, I do think there are some interesting things that occurred to me in, like, looking through this that would be worth talking about, but it's still opinion PC.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
No, definitely still opinion PC, but it's serious stuff. That's all I mean to say.
Yeah.
Opinions, but, like, we all know that we're talking about something here that's basically life and death.
Yeah, obviously.
What inspired this? Other than the desire to, I don't know, do less research than is Pac-Man a vegetarian?
Yeah. So I've had various ways throughout the years of trying to tackle backlog games, right? I have my bingo system, where I set up, like, a board of, like, 25 games that I can, like, choose from and try to get a bingo, and my brain subconsciously avoids getting a bingo every single time. Which is a good thing.
Is there a reward to getting a bingo?
For me?
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never gotten one in, like, the 3 years I've done this.
Maybe that's why.
I need to have a reward for it.
The whole point of getting bingo is you win something.
I guess that's fair. I tend to treat the bingo board as more like a selection menu, right? Like, part of the problem of, like, and we can talk about problems of approaching your backlog more in depth later, but part of the problem can be, like, you know, decision paralysis.
Mm-hmm.
I have all these games, I don't know what to play, and so if I can narrow it down to, like, 25, you know, that still gives me freedom to have, like, different moods.
Yeah.
But I'm not just, like, staring into the abyss.
Yeah.
But I cannot find where I read this anymore. I can't remember what site it was on. But there are some reflections of, like, comparing the way, like, game release cycles go versus, like, how booktok sort of the book section of TikTok.
Yeah, in case you're not familiar with booktok, which
sort of
I
talk
am,
about
but
books versus the way that we usually talk about games, and that games are much more release cycle focused. Talking about, like, the big new release, and there's a little bit less of, like, going back to, like, purposely read classics, you know, and then talk about that with your followers. Or they're saying sometimes some of the book talkers they follow, like, do, like, theme months where they, like, focus in on a particular theme, right? And so I was thinking that's a cool idea. So for May, I'm doing Memoir May.
That's cool.
In my backlog, because I have 3 games that are vaguely memoir-esque that I've been meaning to play. And so that's my goal for the month, is to play those 3 games, of which it consumed me and Despolote, so you've played 2 of them.
Oh, nice. Wow. Yeah. The rare occasion where I have played the games and Emma hasn't. That's crazy.
And I'm going to see how that works out for me.
That's cool.
And if that's interesting to do.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how it's the thematic. I'll be interested to hear how that goes for you. I think sometimes I bristle at that sort of idea because sometimes games with similar story genres can also be, like, quite similar games.
Yeah.
That makes sense, right? Like, I guess this is not quite the same. Not that Citizen Sleeper and I Was a Teenage Exocolonist are like so similar, but they're both like you're in space, I guess.
Yeah.
But I've bristled at playing both of those at the same time because I sort of feel like it's gonna feel the same.
Yeah, and that's why I haven't picked like a genre of game. Like, I think that trying to do like, I don't know, Tactics August
would be weird.
Be exhausting.
Yeah.
So instead I've picked a more typical book genre.
Yeah.
Because all the Consume Me, Despelote, and then I'm playing Perfect Tide Station to Station are all different genres of game.
Yeah.
But they are all memoir-esque games.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So we'll see how it works out.
That also called to mind for me, I feel like sometimes when I'm thinking of books to read, I'm searching by authors I like.
Mm-hmm.
But that'd be a crazy way to do it for games.
I could, like, I've played Supergiant's games at this point, but that seems like something you could do, like, a studio that has, like, 4 games.
How many of those exist now?
That's fair.
That's more what I'm thinking of. I'm like, okay, like if I decide I want to read all of Emily Henry's stuff or all of the Sanderson stuff or whatever, right? Like those books exist and people put out a book once a year a lot of the time, right? Sometimes more often than that. If they're churning out the, I don't know, the books. The books for women.
Yes, the books for women.
With the books for women cover.
Yeah.
Which is not, I like a book, I've enjoyed plenty of book for women, right? But like you all know the book for women the cover, what it looks like, and that's interesting in and of itself. That's a whole different thing to talk about. But it's interesting to think about how challenging it would be to do something similar with games creators. Unless you're really trying to dive back into, like, I guess you could play a lot of Tetsuya Nomura if you wanted to. Although that would be very hard to do in a month.
Yes.
Like, part of the problem is that many of the game designers who have an oeuvre for you to, like a body of work for you to play, have that because they work at, like, Square Enix. Like, they're making, like, massive games.
Yeah. And a lot of, games are... Not that authors don't also do sequels, right? But a lot of game studios do a lot of sequels. And, like, to be fair, sometimes those can be different enough from each other. Like, I think you could play a few Final Fantasies in a row.
Yeah.
That are, temporally displaced from each other and not necessarily get sick of, like, because they're can be pretty distinct in terms of how the gameplay expresses
I enjoyed
themselves.
playing 7 Yakuza games
of
the beat 'em up genre pretty much in a row. So
yes, and sometimes you just get in a mood also.
Yeah.
But
which I think is more or less the equivalent to reading a lot of Emily Henry, to be perfectly frank. Like, are they all the same? Kind of.
Sure. But yeah, so that got me thinking about, like, the different ways I've approached my backlog, my relationship to my backlog of games, the reason we call it that in the first place, and why people seem so obsessed with backlogs.
And I'm a lover of lists, which probably makes it kind of ironic. I don't have, like, a formal backlog list. I did, like, during the pandemic, I did have a sort of, like, here is a list of games I would like to play and beat. But I had, like, that was part of, like, a much larger list of, like, here are things to do.
Yeah.
Even though I had, like, a demanding job during that time. So, not that I wasn't going anywhere, but, like, I had a demanding job during that period. So, not that I, like, needed a list of things to do, but I love a list. But at this point, I did just sort of clean up my games shelf and looked at a bunch of stuff and I was like, oh yeah, like, I guess I have that.
Yeah. Yeah, there were definitely conflicting advice on making lists. And part of this is because I think that list making is a trait that is either helpful for you or is not, depending on the type of person you are. But I've definitely been guilty of sometimes, like, making lists mostly as a way to avoid like actually making a decision.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can just be a way of continuing to put off.
Right. You're evaluating if there's a better potential decision to make.
Yeah.
And I will say, I've definitely, in the work context, like something I think I've gotten better at this in recent years, but certainly a couple of years ago, I got into the habit of making lists that were just like impossible, more or less. I'd like make my Monday list, and there was just no way that I was going to get through it all. And I think this is the problem with a gaming backlog list for a lot of people is, I mean, it's one thing if it's just like, you have your backlog, but if you have it as sort of like, there's a goal and I'm going to get through this much, it's very easy to, and I've compared this against my like work list where the things did kind of have to get done because it was my job, right? Versus this thing, it's a hobby. Maybe. That's not how we talk about it online all the time. But the trick with a list is you've got to feel like you have to do it. And the moment you start to like not believe in the list it's like a Tinkerbell thing. The moment you start to not believe in that this list has to get done, like it loses all of its power. The moment you start to say to yourself, well, I can move the thing from the Monday list. I can just do them. I'll start my Tuesday list with finish the Monday list.
Yeah.
Then it's over for you. And I think that's what happens with the gaming backlog list a lot of the time.
Yeah, I agree. And I think also it comes back to like, and this could be a problem for anybody who is into a form of media, right? People are really into watching films or people are really into reading books. But games are so new release focused that you're always hearing about like the cool new game that came out. If you're at all like, if you're a gamer, let's say, you're always hearing about the cool new game come out and you're like, oh, people are talking about this now. I want to get it so I can talk about it too. And then by the time you finish that, it's like, oh, there's a new game out that everybody's talking about. It's like, oh, well, I want to get that so that I can talk about it.
I think the thing that comes closest is television.
Yeah.
To a certain extent. I do feel like I kind of, and I mean, my gaming one, which is itself not very formal, is much more formal. But I do feel like I have the sense of like, oh, there are all these shows I should watch, right? And oh, like there's a show coming out and I should be able to talk about it now. With games, it's a little different because like I do believe that I will play things, and so I will avoid spoilers a lot of the time. With TV, I often give up. Like, I know what like, I feel like I could discourse about Heated Rivalry, even though I haven't seen it. I feel like I have opinions on the Euphoria wedding or whatever. Sure. Like, I haven't watched a single minute of that show. So, like, I feel like in television, I've more resigned myself to, like, all right, whatever, like, I'm gonna absorb some of the discourse. But I think that TV also, I don't know, I feel like the Emmys and the Golden Globes for TV don't have like the cachet that film awards do. Yeah. And so whereas like people can have a backlog of movies, you have like a moment to go, you have like a cultural moment to go through those, which is like, it's almost Oscar season. So, like, if you care about this, you've got a moment that says, hey, you, like, do it now. Like, watch the Best Picture nominees now. Yeah. Or it tells you, like, oh, you know those movies you haven't seen? Like, these are the important ones. Yeah. Right? Whereas games, and, I mean, I'm saying TV to a lesser extent, but I'm sure plenty of people care about the Emmys. But whatever, games don't have that. Yeah. The Game Awards doesn't say to me, oh, like, you know those games in the backlog? Like, this is the one you should play. Yeah. It just says, these are the people that are going to play their dumb little theme song. We should have had a different variation of their theme song to play 20 times or whatever.
That's true. They really should have collected a few different.
There's plenty of good music in that game.
Yeah. It's I guess with theater you can't really have a backlog.
You kind of can, but it does eventually disappear.
Eventually, yeah, it leaves your options eventually.
Yeah, exactly.
It doesn't
like
hang
eventually
around forever.
Your license has been revoked. But I mean, people definitely binge before the Tonys. I mean, that's why everything opens right before Tony eligibility, right? But people definitely do like try to collect them all at that point.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is interesting how much like discussion there is around, oh no, like there's more games than I could possibly play, and here's how I can tackle it like it's work.
Yeah.
And granted, obviously I do more reading about games than I do many other forms of media, but it's still striking. I do think there are book backlogs, and I'm just like not that kind of reader.
No, but I think that people can like film people have backlogs, and even TV people probably have backlogs, right?
Yeah.
Someone out there is like, oh, I'll get around to watching Breaking Bad eventually.
Yeah.
Not me. I probably will never watch Breaking Bad. Sorry. But it was interesting. I just searched like how to tackle your backlog in Google, and like backlog is also just a word that's used in like agile work functions.
Yeah, that was a scary Medium piece that you posted.
Yeah. Like at my work we have a backlog, right? Because we use Jira, and that's just what it's called. But you search like how to tackle my backlog, and it doesn't bring up like agile development things first or book things first. It's like the whole first page is about your game's backlog.
Yeah.
You know, without even putting games in there. And I searched in incognito just to make sure it wasn't like targeting me, and I got the same results. So it is interesting just how much and how many like self-help articles you can find about like tackling your gaming backlog. Like it's a responsibility that you have to do.
Where do you think that comes from?
Well, I did think your point was interesting about like Steam sale culture.
So I think that's where people's backlogs come from, which, to share the point that I already shared with Emma, like games have a much louder sale cycle than pretty much any other form of media.
Yeah.
Right. There's no equivalent to the Steam summer sale or whatever for books or movies or anything.
Yeah.
There just isn't. And so
I mean, I guess for real film nerds, there's like the twice yearly Criterion flash sales.
Sure.
But even that is that's like for the real sickos.
Yeah, and that's not equivalent to like, you know, Call of Duty going on sale.
Right.
So like I do think that some of the backlog of it all comes from well, there's a deal, and like might as well grab the deal because I'm gonna get around. I'd like to play this, and then I should get it while it's on sale, so that if I decide I want to play it, I don't get ripped off. Right. So I think that's part of why people build up backlogs, and even, you know, dating back, right? Oh, if you like used to be able to go to GameStop and have a decent used game collection, right? They're like, oh, like there's this game and it's $10 and it might not be here next week, so I should pick it up now kind of energy. So I totally understand why people develop those backlogs, and also because games are long, and even in like a charitable situation, you overestimate how much time you have to play, or you underestimate how long a game is. Looking at you, Final Fantasy Rebirth, that single-handedly destroyed my ability to wipe out any backlog games this past year. But what I was curious about is why do we think that games in particular get this really like work focused, virtuous, you have to clear it out idea? It's like cleansing almost.
So I think it is maybe a couple things. And I'm sure that one of these applies to, people who are really on booktok or film talk or whatever also.
Mm-hmm.
But it can be hard to, like, not compare your, like, game completion numbers to, like, a content creator you watch.
Yeah.
Right? Like, someone who makes video essays about games for a living, right? Or someone who writes about games for a living. And because you bring up Rebirth, and it's striking to me, like, that took you so long, playing it. But
I took some big breaks, to be fair, but
it came out for me when I was working 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
That and Infinite Wealth. And I blasted through both those games.
Yeah.
Because, like, I had this thing called spare time.
Right.
And if you're working a normal job, like I am now, I think that if those games came out now, I would not blast through them as fast as I did.
Yeah.
You cannot play as much as someone whose job it is to play games.
Yeah.
Even if they, obviously they'll also have to write about those games, and that takes a chunk of time too. But still, it is their literal job to play games.
Yeah.
And so they are finishing more games than the average gamer out there.
Yep.
So that's one thing. Of, like, wanting to keep up with, like, the people talking about games. Like, because you're interested in games, right? So you want to be hearing all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing is, I feel like the way we talk about games, or the way a lot of people talk about games, is very much tied up in, like, getting bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Right? We've talked about this before. Like, the idea of, like, I spent this much money on this game, so I should be getting, like, this much value out of the game. And honestly, as we've said, we've talked about this before, and I get it on a certain extent. I am lucky enough that I can buy a game sort of thoughtlessly sometimes and then not get around to it, right? I can just make a purchase if I want to.
Yeah.
So I get people who are like, well, I want to make sure my purchase is going to something I enjoy. But I think there's also, like, people who have had this backlog. They're like, oh, I spent money on this.
Yeah.
So I should be getting value out of it. And if it just sits in my Steam library forever, like, that, I've wasted that money.
But there is a weird tension between the two things that you just raised, right? The bang for your buck versus this, like, I have to keep finishing things, right? Because on one hand, the bang for your buck gamer wants 100 hours of content, right? And that necessarily pulls against the I have to finish things and things are piling up in my backlog, which you're right to say it is in some ways two sides of the same coin, but it's interesting the ways that those two varying degrees of toxic gamer culture things, right? Not that either of those things is so bad, right? But take it to an extreme.
Yeah.
Kind of pull in opposite directions from each other.
Yeah. But at a certain point, as I have had to face before, clearing through my game collections when I moved, and just sort of periodically, eventually you do have to look at a game and be like, I'm not going to play this.
Yeah.
It can be, especially for my physical games, which I have periodically sent off for scraps of money. To clear them out. There is sometimes a temptation to be like, well, maybe one day, maybe I'll play it. And on Steam, if I have a Steam game that I don't think I will get around to, I can tuck it in, like, a folder and hide it, but theoretically it's still there.
Yeah.
Right? But at a certain point still, you have to just be like, no, I'm not gonna play this. It's not gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
Or if it does, I'll buy it again for $5.
Yeah. It's interesting for me. I've been trying this year in my not gaming wise, but, like, I've been trying this year to get better at, this is a different gaming meme, right? I have to save the rare item for when I need it, right? I've been trying this year in my non-gaming life to use things.
Yeah.
I kind of have like a tea backlog, right?
Sure.
So I've been like, all right, like I've just got to drink through this. Like I've got to do it. And that's been really enjoyable. And so I do think it's easy in the research of this to sort of discount oh no, like it feels good to finish things. It feels good to check things off the list. And while sometimes in the abstract, it can sort of, in reading about this and reading all these articles, feel like, God, this all feels like a job.
Yeah.
Not to, Ian Bogost thinks all games are jobs, right?
Yes.
And ultimately, we kind of like checking things off lists, and we kind of like clearing things out, and we kind of like using things up. So there's like an inherent pleasure in it that is there, even if ultimately it does sort of start to feel like, gosh, nobody's paying you to finish, I don't know, those 5 games you bought in the Steam sale 3 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, I do think, I think you've talked about sometimes you schedule like hobby time for yourself.
Yeah. I put it on my normal to-do list.
Yeah. And I know you enjoy your job, but I do think sometimes if we all had a little more free time, maybe we'd be a little less obsessed with checking things off our gaming backlog.
Yeah.
Too.
That is true. Like eventually it'll just get done.
Yeah.
But alas, that's not the world we live in.
Yeah. And it can be okay to have a backlog.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's not a new release you want, or there's nothing on sale that you want, and maybe you have, 10 games that you haven't gotten around to, and so instead of just having one game like that you haven't gotten around to and you look at and you're like, actually I don't want to play this right now. Right? You have your selection of games that you can pick from if you need them.
Yeah, no, exactly. You don't just have to be like, oh God, the only game I own is Sekiro. So I guess it's that.
Yeah.
It's true. And I also think the pressure of having a little bit of a backlog weighing on you, you talk about decision paralysis in the context of, like, what game am I going to play? But there's also the classic evening decision paralysis of just being a person on your couch.
Yeah.
Right? And so maybe if you are feeling a little guilt about your gaming backlog, you'll have a fun cultural experience for yourself playing a video game as opposed to scrolling through Game Talk or whatever. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but sometimes for me, that's like what weighs on me is like, oh, like I'm just sitting on my couch watching Instagram Reels or whatever, and I could be, playing a game.
Yeah, I watched one video from I'm Anna Molly on YouTube about called Our Obsession with Never Completing Our Gaming Backlog. Where she was talking about, like, at a certain point, as a content creator, she focused more on completing her backlog as, like, a variety game YouTuber. Yeah. Versus, for a long time, she was more playing a lot of Animal Crossing or multiplayer games. Yeah. And, like, making it more of a social interaction. And by turning more to playing single-player games that she's crossing over her backlog, it's not really a social. She's cut out doing the social gaming stuff more. Yeah. Right. So it's traded off from that. But also she talked about like she naps a lot during the day and she wants to not do that as much. And also like not like just lay around doom scrolling on her phone, like you said. And so like she has started playing games during the time when she would usually nap, when she knows that she gets tired. Yeah. And so in the way, like getting through the backlog is like a habit formation for her. Self-improvement. A habit replacement for her, which I thought was really an interesting way of looking at it.
I've tried to approach my commute that way sometimes.
Yeah.
Right? I feel like for a while I got into this habit of like, I was just like looking at my phone and not even really looking at my phone well, right? Because the internet in the subway is not great. Like attempting to look at my phone.
Yeah.
And using that time to read, or I was playing games for a while. I need to start carrying my Switch around again. Felt like a better use of that time.
Yeah. But also, like, I can't imagine being like trying to get through a backlog if I was a ardent Final Fantasy 14 player.
Right. No, you just would not have time.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 14 would be my backlog.
Correct. You would have you have tasks in that game, right? You'd have a backlog of tasks in the game. It's a meta backlog. What do you think of my debt snowball idea?
In terms of like playing small games off your list.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the debt snowball concept, which I think is a dumb concept in the finance world, I've never understood this. I mean, I understand it's like a motivational technique, but it feels fiscally unsound. Whatever. But it's the idea that like if you have like multiple sources of debt, you should pay off the smallest one first and build momentum and then build up and build up and build up like a snowball. Which again seems like it totally disregards the concept of interest rates to me. But whatever.
Well, your smaller debt could potentially have a bigger interest rate.
Sure, in that case maybe yes, but
and I can see the value of not wanting to have to deal with multiple sources of debt if you just have the one to worry about.
I understand it from a mental energy standpoint. I just have always sort of felt like financially something about it doesn't seem correct to me. But of course, people are people, and you've got the psychological,
and also,
you can't discount.
If you have that much debt, maybe it doesn't matter which one you start paying off first.
Perhaps. But
I don't know. I'm not a financial expert either.
I have felt like with games, that could be a good way to approach it. Because then, you know, you get the satisfaction of checking more things off your list, and you don't get stuck in a quagmire of a gigantic game.
I did read one Kotaku article on defeating your gaming backlog that actually suggested the opposite. Because they were viewing it more as like, you know, you have 5 games, and 4 of them are between, you know, 2 to 10 hours, and one of them is The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
And like theoretically, if you cross off those 4 games, you're not even halfway there.
That's true, but
you have the whole of The Witcher 3 to still play. So they actually suggest starting with the bigger thing to make more progress. Which I'm not totally convinced by, but I don't really believe in playing one game at a time.
Right.
Anyway. I always have at least 2. So
I just find long games, unless you're really excited about them, to be like you just get stuck.
And I think that's the thing though, of like you have to be able to identify what you're in the mood for. Right? You have to
very
find some
challenging.
Very challenging.
In general in life.
Yes.
What do you feel like eating for dinner tonight?
The dreaded question.
Yeah.
But like there was a trend going around on social media at the beginning of the year where people were like soliciting from their friends and followers to give them like 12 games to play this year, right?
Yeah.
And like in some ways that's just an invitation to grow your backlog.
Certainly.
But also I think sometimes that can be helpful, like if you ask a friend, like, should I play The Witcher 3 or should I play Transistor? And they say, oh, The Witcher 3. Sometimes, like, even if you're not listening to them, like, you can tell in your gut when they say it. Like, oh, yeah, that's what I wanted to play. Or, like, but I don't really want to play The Witcher 3.
Yeah.
When someone tells you what you should do, you have that gut reaction of, like, no, or, yeah, okay, yeah,
right.
okay.
And then you ruin your relationship with your friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice. No, I think offering up your backlog to your Twitter followers or whatever and being like, pick 12 for me might be a good way to do it. But, and I think it's soliciting opinions from people about games they like, also great.
Yeah.
But I do agree that probably the here's 12 games leads to like 10 games that you hadn't thought about playing before. Because there's so many games.
That is also part of the problem.
Yeah.
Because, like, I mean...
There's so much TV, too. I don't know.
But it's interesting, right? Because, like, I'm thinking about books, and, like, there are independent presses.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm probably... Unless I hear something, or they're a friend or something, I'm probably not reading someone's self-published book.
Probably not.
Or even really thinking about it.
Yeah.
Whereas with games... Could be literally anybody.
Yeah.
Could be somebody doing it all by themselves. Could be with a smaller publisher. Could be a big publisher. Could be a big game studio in general.
Yeah.
Like, all sizes are potentially relevant to discussions of games going on at the level that I am playing games, at least.
Yeah.
Right? So, there are so many games.
I mean, they also vary way more in length, right?
Yes.
There's almost no other piece of media that you could say, this is on my list, and it's going to take me 100 hours to get through it. Like, I guess, like, I'm rewatching Gilmore Girls right now. I guess that entire thing, maybe 100 hours? Right? Like, all 7 seasons?
I don't know how many episodes there are in Gilmore Girls.
Like 20-ish a season. So about 150 episodes.
So yes.
Yeah, like 100 hours almost exactly. But they don't make 7-season full order shows anymore. So unless you're trying to watch the entirety of Doctor Who or something, there's almost nothing that could be on your backlog that's the equivalent of the number of games like just in a single year that could come out that will take you 50 plus hours to finish.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just easier for it to, like, not even just the volume of stuff, but the amount in each one. Like, there just aren't books that take that long to read.
And it gets more complicated when you think of, like, levels of completion.
Right.
Right? Not that you, like, drop games that you aren't enjoying. That's one tip for you.
Sure.
But there's, like, you know, people, the fact that games have, like, achievements.
Yeah.
You know, like, or like optional bonus things that you can do. Like, I guess if you buy a Blu-ray, they have like bonus features that you can choose to watch or not watch.
Who does that anymore? They barely do that anymore.
You can read the reader's guide in the back of a book if you so choose. But like, I'm not watching a movie and like, oh, you know, I absorbed every pixel in the frame.
Right.
And so
now I'm going to do it with the subtitles on.
The platinum trophy and watching Citizen Kane.
Dub.
And so, yeah. So it's like it how much time you want to spend with a game too is so variable.
Yeah.
Even within a single game.
So no wonder everybody's got a backlog.
Yeah.
Pretty much nothing you can do about it.
I think that probably the backlog secret is don't treat it as a job. You don't have to play all the classics.
Yep.
You don't have to play everything new coming out.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do the very difficult job of cultivating your sense of taste.
Oh my god.
And your ability to tell if a game seems like it'll be suited to your taste.
Yep.
And have a willingness to put games down that you aren't enjoying. And like, then your backlog's solved.
To try stuff that's a little outside of your taste bubble too. I don't know, you could treat it a tiny bit like a job. In the same way as you have to treat anything in your life a tiny bit like a job. And I don't care if that makes me a capitalist pig to say, right? If you're going to be like semi-serious or like into any hobby, you do have to approach it with some level of organization and some level of commitment to doing it.
Well, for us who talk about games, yes, we need to have a certain level of curiosity
That's true.
about games. I do think that if someone, plays games on the side and their main hobby is actually like crocheting, maybe they don't really have to stretch their gaming taste.
True.
I mean, having a sense of curiosity towards everything in life is great, I think. But sometimes you can just be like, no, I'm gonna play what I would like to play, and then I'm gonna get back to my big crochet sweater project.
Right, but probably there you have a backlog of patterns you want to do.
Yes,
right?
That's true.
Where if like you're semi-serious, it just means
so
that...
maybe if you have an interest in a thing, a backlog is inevitable.
Right. You have to, if you have an interest at a moderate level in a thing, yeah, I don't think it's a bad thing to have a tiny bit of discipline about wanting to experience that thing. So having a little list for yourself or having goals for yourself. Don't listen to this podcast and say, that's bad. The Chocolate Sisters think that's bad.
I think taste can also be, this year one game I crossed off my backlog was Lies of P, which is not a type of game I play very much.
Right.
I do not play a lot of Souls-likes. It did not really inspire me to play more Souls-likes, but elements of it fell inside my taste bubble.
Right. I'm a core.
Right. So you can find things you can still, by knowing your taste, you can find things that have parts of that, but that also have parts that are perhaps different than anything you've exposed yourself to. Yeah. Right.
What Emma is saying is don't buy games that you don't think you're actually going to like.
Try.
Yeah.
I think I've been doing better with that lately.
Try to avoid buying too many games just because they're on sale, or you think you should like them, or there's a hype cycle.
But there really is such a sales culture. Like, they write articles.
I know.
The games you should buy on the Steam sale.
I know.
The best deals on the Steam sale.
Yeah, I
mean,
know.
I guess there's, Prime Day articles like that, too. But those aren't usually about books. Those are about, appliances.
Yep.
So...
And people probably have a backlog of kitchen things to buy. I know I, have at various points.
But all that does for me is not buying games that I might not like means that I have 70 games on my Steam backlog, but my Steam wish list is 300 games.
Woof.
So maybe that doesn't work either.
Well, everybody cheer for Emma's Memoir May and Jolly June or whatever. I don't know.
Jolly June.
Consider it.
There's no month that starts. No, I would have to do May or March again.
Mad Funny May.
May.
Next year. You could do February. Mad Funny February could also
that works.
Work.
Yeah. All right. Any last thoughts about backlogs?
I gotta get more serious about mine. In the end, I've taken away the exact opposite thing from this episode that I should.
What you should really do is establish a Jira board for your gaming backlog. And, treat it seriously and move it through the cycles. That's what I'm saying. We need to agile game play.
I don't know what Jira is. I'm
you're like
Team Cherry.
You're like
whatever.
Team Cherry, yeah.
I'm sorry to that man. I don't know who that man is. So yeah, catch me on Jira. Thanks for listening to another episode of Talk This.
It's dangerous to podcast alone.
How many games do you think you have in your backlog, listener? Do you have some kind of strategy that we didn't talk about that's the way to get through it?
How many Talk This episodes do you have in your backlog?
Yeah, seriously. There's a lot of them now. Go back into the archives. You gotta catch up. There's lore stuff happening here that you aren't even... It was established in episode 23. Get back there. Podcast backlog, real thing. Probably YouTube backlog too. Didn't even get into that. Oh, well, whatever. If you have thoughts about this or anything else we talked about this week, hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Blue Sky at Talk This Podcast. You can also visit our website, www.talkthispodcast.com, where you can read all about the show, check out the games in the hat, and read our blog, where maybe this month, on my blog backlog, I like that, blog backlog, I will write, Is Pac-Man a Vegetarian? And Emma will write Memoir May.
Yeah.
Mad funny Memoir May. Just kidding. Neither of those two games were like that funny.
They're certainly not mad funny.
No, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But most importantly, if you enjoy the show, you ought to subscribe. We're on Apple Podcasts, YouTube Podcasts, TuneIn, Spotify, Pandora Podcasts, online and on the app, Overcast, Pocket Cast, wherever you can find podcasts. Go ahead and subscribe to Talk This so you don't add more to your backlog and you keep up with the show. Emma, what are we talking about next week?
Next week, we're talking about Fear for our old game.
Yep.
And Ball Pit for our new game.
So, Scary Ball Pits. And then in 2 weeks, the ultimate, you'd think anyway, motivator to clear your backlog. 6 Weeks in Gaming. You have to have things to talk about on the show.
I do try to finish things, before 6 Weeks in Gaming.
I do too. I often fail.
Yeah.
So look forward to that. But that's it for this week's show. Thanks for tuning in. Emma, sign us off.
This week, I hope that all your lists grow shorter.